We're in the business of helping people,
Yeah.
right? Personal injury, criminal defense, family law, immigration, estate planning. I mean, we don't exist without our clients. You have to love people.
But I think that's really important for our listeners is the vision. Is you got to have a roadmap. You have to know where you're trying to get to.
Core value number 3 in the firm is take action. And it's a big part of RLF's success.
You got to take action. A lot of lawyers, Adam, and you just said it, they sit on their hands.
And this is not me being self-deprecating. I fail all the time. But the difference is we're not afraid to fail.
The Earley Show will begin after a brief word from today's sponsor, Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our 24/7 virtual receptionist team.
So I do residential real estate, primarily landlord-tenant. My area of practice is high volume. It's a lot of clients and it's a lot of calls that I get. Before answering legal, I would have to take every single call or know that it was going to a voicemail and likely to another attorney. So it has been crucial for me to have answering legal and to have a live person answering the call and being the first line of contact for a prospective client.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Earley Show, sponsored by our friends over at Answering Legal. As always, we have a real treat for you today. Today, we have Adam Rossen, who's a criminal defense attorney down in South Florida. He's the founder of the Rossen Law Firm. I want to bring Adam on the show because he's a very successful entrepreneur. And what's really interesting is he's in the criminal space, criminal defense space. And a lot of times we talk about PI, but we can learn so much from our fellow practitioners who are doing big things within other verticals in the law. And Adam is doing that in the criminal space. So I'm really excited to geek out with him, to learn from him. So we're going to all learn, I'm sure, a lot on the call. Really excited to have Adam on the show. So as always, everyone, I encourage you, make sure you get those pencils sharpened real fast. We're going to have plenty of writer downers, I'm sure. So Adam, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Chris, doing really well. Glad to finally be here. I know we've scheduled and rescheduled this a few times, so glad to, just talk anything with you.
It's really good to sit down and talk with you. I've been admired from afar. I've seen you grow, but you're not in overnight success, right? You didn't start with a big law firm. You grew this thing brick by brick. So I want to get into that. But if we, that's sort of today, Adam. But if we could go back in time, just how you started, your family, brothers and sisters, mom and dad, like what was like growing up? Where did you grow up? Take us back, please.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it only took 15 years or so to be an overnight success, and we've had the firm almost 20 now. So I grew up in South Florida. I was the first one on either side of my family to be born in South Florida. So I'm native. Both sides of my family are from Long Island, New York. And I grew up in Boca Raton, which now is huge. But back then it was your grandparents live in Boca, right? And that was it.
Yeah.
So, but I grew up in, in South Florida. So basically Boca, anywhere from Boca to Fort Lauderdale. Of course, Miami's a whole nother world, which I learned when I went to Miami for law school that, Miami is Miami. Fort Lauderdale and Boca and Palm Beach are South Florida. So there's totally a difference. But my parents, my dad's a dentist. My mom is a dental assistant, and she was the office manager and ran, their practice. And they, I didn't really know as a kid, but looking back, each side of my parents and their families were kind of diametrically different. So my dad's side, very book smart, very intelligent. My dad's dad was a lawyer, although he never really practiced, but just very book smart, the great technicians. And then my mom's side was much less educated, but more street smart, business savvy. So I was lucky to have both sets of grandparents in my life for a very, very long time. I was extremely blessed. And so I learned a little bit, from both of them. And I learned a lot from seeing and watching, and even in, my parents. But as a kid, I had a little bit of that entrepreneur spirit. I mean, I like to think, I was one of the many thousands of kids that were GameStop before GameStop. I would sell my used video games, right, to friends in school. I was always thinking, hey, Dad, why don't you do this for marketing? And why don't you do that? But my dad was always kind of like shooting me down and just very conservative. So, I had kind of those two competing forces. on both sides. And of course, years later, I read the E-Myth and I'm like, oh, okay, my dad is Sally from Sally's Pies. That is an amazing technician. Right.
Yes.
And and he never grew his dental practice to anything other than him and my mom. So my dad was doing cleanings as well. He didn't have a hygienist. And so on one hand, it was really cool because, you get that true craftsman artisanship, right? But at the other hand, it's like, well, do you really need a dentist to be cleaning your teeth? Or I'm sure a hygienist can do it at 95 to 99% of the capacity, or maybe even better, because that's what a hygienist is supposed to do all day.
Right.
Right. So, but yeah, that was, my childhood. I have one brother. He's an oral surgeon now in Buffalo, New York. And so it was really the four of us, plus extended family, grandparents and everything.
Well, I'm sure your parents are really proud. Let me ask you, so your dad was spinning a lot of plates as the entrepreneur, the technician. Was he around a lot, or was he just working all the time? Or was he able to, carve out time for you guys?
Right. Oh, no. He was definitely around. That's good. I mean, I think he had one like Tuesdays where his late night and that was it, But at the same time, there wasn't any flexibility, at least from 9 to 5, 9 to 6 for him, because if he didn't work, then there was no money. Right. He was the only producer. So, that's kind of definitely the downside. I think when I was very little, maybe before I remember, I think he did weekends, but I don't remember those days. Maybe I was 3, 4, 5 years old.
So I always do my research before each show, and I saw that you were a basketball coach. Are you still coaching basketball or no?
No. So I was a high school, well, yes and no. So I was a high school basketball coach for about 10 years. I was fortunate enough to coach very high level players. I like to think everything I do just is high level. I have no interest in, running like a high volume, low fee law firm or anything like that.
Right.
So coached very high level, won a state championship in 2014 at American Heritage High School down here, which is a very nice private school. And I coached against some NBA players. Now I still coach in the Maccabi games. I had a bit of a hiatus, but last year I was brought out of retirement. So we just finished up in August of 2024. It was my 7th set of games, and it was my first gold medal. And the Maccabi games, it's like the Jewish Olympics, and it rotates where it is. This year we were in Houston, Texas, and I won my very first gold medal. So I was very proud, very excited. We had a really good team. But more important than the talent of the players, we had a bunch of players who became a team, which was really powerful, really amazing, great group of kids. And it's just great to see, kids from different areas, different personalities come together as a team. Yes, they have talent, but really come together through that, our 2 week of training camp and our week of the games, and accomplish the goals that we were set out, which was to go undefeated and win the gold medal. And we did. So
congrats.
I still, I still get my 3-4 weeks out of the year with that instead of the 11 months out of the year that coaching a high level high school program requires.
Did you coach basketball before becoming an attorney?
So I did. I hated law school so much. I went to Miami and I just did not like it. I was like, hey, get me in the courtroom. I didn't realize this was all reading and briefing and writing my first year. I was like, this isn't what I see on TV. Come on.
Right.
So I hated it. And I might have dropped out if I didn't coach basketball. So my second and third year, I was the head JV coach at my alma mater, which is Chaminade Madonna in Hollywood, Florida. And it was just the most amazing experience. And through that experience, actually, it was 20 years ago this fall is when I started coaching. It was the fall of 2004. And I met Manny was my team captain and one of my JV players. I was 23, he was 15. And now he's the managing partner of the firm. And Manny, you've met Manny. And It's really cool that, in a way, I mean, him and I are brothers. Because we go back so long and we've had such a, great relationship dating back to me being his, coach where I was 23 years old. I knew X's and O's. I knew the game, but I didn't really know what I was doing as far as being a leader of young men. And that helped me so much throughout my career. I always look back even now and say, well, what are the lessons that I learned from coaching and still learning from coaching?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that translates. There's great crossover, right? Between being an entrepreneur, leading an organization, leading a team, such carryover. Let me ask you this.
And I still screw up every day. I screw maybe every week now, but I'm always learning.
that's the practice of coaching, the practice of law as well. So let me ask you, so you didn't love law school, you got through it, and you
Right.
became barred. Did you always do criminal defense? What did you do once you get your bar card?
Well, I wanted, back in law school, I was like, well, I want to be a trial lawyer. So either probably PI or criminal. And I did an internship at the Broward or Fort Lauderdale State Attorney's Office my third year. And at first I was paired with a lawyer who we just didn't vibe really well. And I was like, this isn't cool. And then about 6 weeks later, I was switched and I fell in love with it then. I was like, wow. And, I had 5 jury trials before I graduated law school. And I actually won one of them. And I beat the defense attorney later became a judge. So it was really cool. And to get that experience. And from there, I was hooked. And I just fell in love with, I think I've always kind of gravitated towards criminal law just from watching Law and Order and, just it's interesting, right?
100%.
Who doesn't love, the fact patterns are amazing. The real life stuff is amazing. It's just the practice of criminal law is a lot harder than people think. And, but yeah, I fell in love and, I was like, all right, I want to be a prosecutor. And I was there for about 2 years and loved parts of it, hated other parts of it. And after, 26 years old, me and my roommate, who was a prosecutor with me, we decided to jump ship and start our own law firm because, hey, we're young guys, we're good trial lawyers. What could go wrong? Right? Let's do it. And we did.
So you start your own practice, you're pretty young, you're 26 at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you guys stay together? That wasn't Manny. Manny came later into the practice.
Right. No. My old partner, his name is Bill Barner, is a great friend. Actually just saw him this week. And we were partners from 2008 to 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay. So you guys sounds like amicably parted ways. So 2015.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. 2015, what did your career look like? Take us back to that point.
Yeah. So, even before that, Bill and I, our position was, hey, we're 26, 27 years old. We have no families. We have no, as a prosecutor, you don't have business that you can take with you. So now is the best time. Imagine being 40, having a wife and 2 kids. So we did it. And we said, we just got to make what we made at the prosecutor's office. That's it. Right. Which is, not a lot of money. And we did the first year, we made more than that, a little bit more, second year we made a little bit more. And then we kind of got into a rhythm where, it was the 2 of us. We had no staff. I was my own, legal assistant. Bill was his for a long time from 08 until 15. And we got a little stagnant, yeah, we took home maybe 80-90% of what we grossed. And with total owner benefit, it was a very high percentage, but that was it. And we ran a very lean practice. And Bill decided he wanted a little more flexibility. And, we were doing criminal and immigration. So he wanted to split. So we split. And yeah, it was great terms. And, we're still really good friends. And then I said, well, the person who I might not have left and had the courage to leave the prosecutor's office without having, holding his hand and jumping together is now going to be gone. So it's all on me. Mm-hmm. And I just thrust myself into consuming content about mostly marketing. All right, I need clients, right? Because when you're there with, just a few $100,000 in gross revenue among 2 people, it's all right, I need clients. So that's what I did. And it was about a year of just consuming content, maybe a little scared to take action. And then in 2016, I'm like, I got to start actually taking action and doing stuff. And I did. And from there, it's been, kind of the second phase of my journey, which, now, whatever it is, 2015 and now 9 years later, we have about 25 people, multiple 7 figures. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And I'm out of production.
So I want to get into that, but I'm really interested. So 2015, you started to geek out on this stuff, right?
Yeah.
You're reading, you're consuming, but then you weren't taking action until a year later, right? So you can't get far without taking one step forward. Why did you decide a year in, okay, I need to start implementing? Like what happened? Was like a moment, or was it just a progression for you?
Yeah, I think it was a progression of just, I can't remember one specific moment, but it was just a general progression. I started to make a little bit more money. I remember back in 2015, I figured out how to get clients from Avo, right? Avo is not, I don't think it's really that great now, but back then I was like, oh, wait a minute. All of a sudden I became a 10.0 and got a few reviews. And people are calling me from there. Wow, let me actually spend a little bit of money with them. And, I think I got out close to 200 reviews within a year or two, and it was working very well, but I knew there was a lot more to it. But as far as just that, I had to produce the work too. And it just, there's always, especially then, right? Now a $5,000 commitment then was major, right?
Sure.
And now that's probably equivalent to a $50,000 or maybe $150,000 investment for me in the firm now.
Right.
And so, a lot of it was just scared fear. Just, oh my God, I'm going to spend X and I'm going to lose it all. What if it doesn't work? A lot of it was fear-based. And I just had to really, through listening to podcasts, meditation, and just growing up, kind of change my mindset.
All right. I got to ask you, so do you meditate?
Sometimes. Now, not so much. But back then I did a lot more back then, and just kind of trying to, calm the mind and stuff like that. But I definitely, I think I need to get back into it, but it was definitely, it was really helpful. And just really learning about fear and overcoming fear and what's the worst that can happen, because my dad's side was very fear-based.
Right.
Save your pennies, right? My his parents, my grandparents, they were born in the Great Depression. They were teenagers in the Great Depression.
Right.
So they lived through that, and they know it was always save your pennies, save your pennies, save your
100%.
pennies.
Yeah. But you kind of had a different appetite. I feel like they're more risk tolerant. You taking bets, you're compounding these bets. Is there something that
it was an evolution. It was definitely an evolution.
100%. Yeah, it's not overnight, like we said. So was there something back in the day that kind of, like you just talked about a few minutes ago, the E-Myth by Michael Gerber? We've referenced that on the show before. That was something that my turning point of, like, I was a caveman who discovered fire. Like, oh, my eyes are open. Was there something that you consumed which kind of pushed you forward, or a conference or something you did that kind of like, okay, I'm moving now. I'm getting, this is making sense.
Yeah. I mean, so in 2016, I finally joined Great Legal Marketing. And I think I was in their funnel since 2015. Back when, Charlie looked like he was 25 years old.
He still does.
A little. Yeah, no, but that was like, maybe it was Charlie looking like he was 15. It was kid Charlie back then, teenage Charlie. And, I was in the funnel for about a year, and then finally I'm like, I just need to just join the group, pay the money. And they had a boot camp. And I remember I got married in November 2016, and I went to the boot camp in December 2016. So about a month after I got married, and I went. And it was a great boot camp. Actually, Lloyd was there. Lloyd. And
Great guy.
So I met him. I met Jenny Stevens. She was there. I was a new member, and I remember being there. It was back before they had their training stuff. I think it was at the Hilton Garden Inn somewhere in Northern Virginia.
I've been there many times.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh my God, just an explosion of different things. And I went back and I went through maybe the 10 years or maybe the prior 5 years of newsletters, and I read them all. I saved all the PDFs. I put them all in a folder, like on a Google Drive folder. And I'm just going through writing down saying, okay, well, family lawyer's doing this. How can I do a version for criminal? How can I, right? They're marketing to therapists. Well, can I market to therapists in a certain way? Can I do this? Can I do that? Right. And I've learned about myself over the years. I'm not the most inventive person, but I'm very good at innovation. So, if there's an idea, I'm very good at taking that and changing it and making it better and making my own. But, to be the pure inventor and just come up with something completely from scratch, I'm okay at, but that's not my strong suit. It's looking at what other people are doing and saying, I have a way to make it 5 times or 10 times better or applicable to me. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So that's what I did. Just kind of dove in really deep.
So when I found Ben Glass, my career changed, Adam. Everything changed because that was, to me, a catalyst because my eyes were open. I saw, I discovered fire, right, as a caveman. But then I was like, oh my God, there were bonfires burning. I'm very stimulated. Started writing books and things of that nature, newsletters, right? Really geeking out like you did. So what you're saying really resonates. My first conference, I did the boot camp. I also went, my first GLM conference, it's Great Legal Marketing, was 2019. I think, did you speak on
I
stage.
did. It was pretty cool because my first conference was 2017. And again, it was drinking from the fire hose. I had been in GLM for 11 months and I had pages upon pages of notes, but I also set some goals with intention. I said, I'm like, all right, within 2 years, I want to join the mastermind. Within this, I want to do, and I mean, it was just mind blown going there. And by that time, I had hired a part-time marketing assistant, and her and I went, and both of us just flowing with ideas. But what we also learned, which is very important for people to hear, because this was also, I think, a pivotal point. There were so many people that we met at that 2017 conference who, we talked to them. We said, all right, how long you've been here? Oh, been in the group 5 years. Have you done a newsletter yet? We're starting one. Have you done this yet? And it was a lot of people were, no, 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 no. And so we, on the plane back, we're like, wow, there's just so much inaction from these people that are in this group, and now one of our 5 core values, core value number 3 in the firm is take action. And it's a big part of RLF's success.
You got to take action. A lot of lawyers, Adam, and you just said it, they sit on their hands and they spend a lot of money for a conference or even a book and they don't do anything. And I think the best thing you can do, I'm definitely not the best lawyer. I'm not the sharpest tack in the drawer, but I'll do the work. I'll let it rip and I'll take a risk. And usually I whiff, but sometimes I connect, and that's where we have success. I asked you about the conference because I remember, this is going to sound weird, but I think about this because that's the power of consuming content in person, live, is
right.
You were speaking and you said this thing that I never really heard before in the context of a law firm. You said it's really important that we treat people like we're at the Ritz-Carlton. We say, my pleasure. And I literally, I think about that, the my pleasure thing. Go to Chick-fil-A. You're damn right they're going to say, it's my pleasure, the guy, taking your money at the drive-thru. And so I encourage everyone to use that phrase, not in an inauthentic way, but like without clients, you're nobody, like you're nothing, you can't pay your bills. So like showing humility, saying it's my pleasure, because really you're serving people. Adam, I saturate that to my team. It's our pleasure, and not in a fake way, not in a mechanical machine-like way. Like it's my pleasure, because when you go to the Ritz-Carlton, that's how you are made to feel that they are, you're in the best hands. So when you said that little thing on that stage in Virginia, I took that and I ran with it. And I think our listeners can really benefit from that. My pleasure, it's your mindset as a business owner. And I feel like you're very sensitive to that as well.
Well, we're in the business of helping people, right? Personal injury, criminal defense, family law, immigration, estate planning. I mean, we don't exist without our clients. You have to love people. You just have to. In order to do what we do. And that's growing up, I wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer in both professions. I mean, maybe it's part of it is, what else, especially back then, is a young Jewish boy going to be? An accountant, a doctor, or a lawyer, right?
Awesome.
Right? Entrepreneur was kind of a dirty word on my dad's side of the family, not my mom's, but but it really is. I mean, and there's a reason that Chick-fil-A is so much more profitable than McDonald's at 6 days a week instead of 7. And now, I mean, I say my pleasure to my wife, and just it's so ingrained in me, right?
Yeah, I know.
It just, it is, but also when you have that and you set that tone early. So I was lucky, right? Because imagine if we had a different vibe or different culture with 25 people and I'm trying to change everything, right? It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
It's going to be 10 steps back until we go 100 steps forward. But, luckily, throughout the journey, I was able to do this. And, back in 2019, when we only had 3 people in the firm. And so now it's a big part of our culture. And we hire for these things. We fire for these things. We train for these things, combining with EOS, which we started in 2021 and all those other things. It's our DNA. And there's a lot of criminal lawyers in South Florida who are like, Adam came out of nowhere. He's just a good marketer. No, I mean, yes, but not just, and it's about the relationships that we build with our clients. Read my Google reviews, read my firm's Google reviews. When you read them, you can, you have people that are telling personal stories about how we have helped them through the worst times in their lives. And it is such a humbling experience that you don't get unless you are truly an authentic, great team of great people who care and have a love and passion for helping others, right? And, you feel it when you read our Google reviews. So
Well, how do you
it's
get
very
Google
important.
reviews as a criminal defense lawyer? And people like, Adam,
That's
love you,
how.
man, but I don't want to
So-
write online about my situation.
So we do, right? So we get a lot of those, and those will be the ones where where if you read somebody saying, great team, love them, it's something probably
Yeah.
very serious where the client
Yeah.
didn't want to open up.
Yeah.
But it's about having authentic relationships with people, having that trust factor, and explaining to people and say, listen, think back about all of your thoughts, fears, and emotions when you didn't know who to turn to. Imagine if you hired one of our competitors and didn't get the amazing result that we got for you. So we really talked to them about wanting to pay it forward to others, right? And one thing I learned from Ben, as you know, you've heard this a bunch. If you believe that you are the best person in your market to help people through whatever you do, and we do through criminal defense, then we view it as our moral and ethical obligation to grow the firm so we can help more people. And recently, maybe it was about a month ago, I turned to Manny one day and I said, hey, we're a mission-based business, aren't we? And he's like, yeah, of course. And I was like, I know we have our mission and I know we have our core values and I know all this and we're so good at this, but just phrasing it differently, like we run a mission-based business is really cool to think of it. And, yes, we have number and money metrics and we run on numbers now, but we break a lot of those rules for cases and people that are a part of our mission.
Right.
And it helps with attracting the right talent, retaining the right talent. It's all so intertwined when you truly live it and believe it. And if you don't, that's okay, right? If it's just, whatever it is, but you won't have, the level of long-term success that we're having and that we're continuing to plan to have.
I'm just taking notes. I hope the audience is as well. So one thing I'm thinking of was it Zig Ziglar who said you can get everything you want in life if you help enough people get what they want, right? So you are not a self-serving lawyer who's just in it to make a buck. Yeah, you're a for-profit business. That doesn't mean you can't show love to people along the way. Because when you do that, you can move mountains. And when you hire those people who are picking up what you're putting down in terms of service, man, you could just crush it. Because most lawyers that you and I know, they don't care about this stuff. They don't care about the empathy, the love. That's how we have growing firms, right? Because we pay attention to the human thing. They don't even criminal defense and PI are different, but at the end of the day, we're solving problems, and they take away from that experience, that journey with your office, how you made them feel, right? If they're being made to feel like they're just a dollar figure, they're going to hate you. They're not going to leave your review. And one other thing I just want to mention is almost everyone on this call cares about getting reviews. And Adam just touched upon that. You can't just say, hey, Adam, can you leave me a review? Yeah, sure, Chris, I'll get to it. No, you have to be specific. Right. You got to give a why. Hey, Adam, could you please leave a review because X, Y, Z? There's something behind that ask. It's not just an arbitrary ask. So I really encourage everyone. That's how we've gotten so many reviews, is giving the customer, the client, a reason why they should take that action. So I encourage everyone to utilize that. It can be very helpful.
Right. And my favorite reviews are the ones where our staff are mentioned, which is pretty high percentage of.
Oh, that's wonderful. That puts a smile on my face. Because we hired those people, right? And that's just so gratifying to see that love being shown to people that we poured into.
And especially, the lawyers are the outward stars of the show.
Right.
But when we can see the people behind the lawyers, right? And think about it, a lot of our staff, like legal assistants, I always say when you boil down a legal assistant's job just to one factor, it's to make the lawyer look good, right?
Yeah.
Make sure the lawyer's prepared, make sure the lawyer's, just everything that they're doing is to make sure the lawyer can be the star, right, of the movie. And to have the background singers, the background dancers, be a focal point of our reviews, or the supporting actors is it's just so satisfying. And I'm so grateful to see that, because it really means that it's not just, the outward facing people that are building the relationships. It's our team, and it's so amazing. And you can't grow without it. And one of the things that, Manny and I have deliberately done over the last maybe 5 years is we've had periods of a few months at a time where we've slowed growth or held back
Yeah.
because I don't want to run a high volume, low fee, chop shop type of law firm. And if we didn't think we had, if we thought we were, a little too many cases or needed to make a hire, we would kind of slow down because, we want the product or our service and the quality of it has to be the best or not.
Sure. I'm 100% with you on that. Just to back up for a second, in terms of legal assistance, as far as I can tell, they're the backbone of the company, of the organization.
Oh, yeah.
They're really doing a lot
And
of
intake.
work. And intake, just that whole operation that allows the lawyers to go into court and be successful in court. Everyone on the call, you need to know the birthdays, the work anniversaries of your staff. You got to show them love. They're supporting you. You can't take it for granted because they'll go to a law firm where they are showing the love. So know those little things, show them the love too, because they're doing so much to help you. I need to ask you this. So I'm going to be honest. I know a lot of criminal defense lawyers, right? And I don't know a lot that have scaled firms. How, it's a million things. I know that, but like, what are some things that you think have done? You mentioned EOS. I imagine that was massive for you. What are some things that have allowed you to scale a criminal practice, which in many instances is not done? It's not done very often.
Right. So, I mean, EOS has been instrumental. Having the core values and the mission is great, but really having the vision and the written business plan and to say, well, where do I want to go in 1, 3, and 5 years? What do I want to be in cases, right? And one of the things I always say is, for me, I'm out of production as the primary lawyer. I don't go to court unless it's to watch our lawyers, maybe in trial or for like a judicial function or something. I'm not going to Thursday morning calendar call anymore unless there's a problem, like 3 people are on vacation and they need me. I don't mind weekend first appearances occasionally, which is kind of weird under the right circumstances. Just because you go, you're in, you're out. But I still love the strategy. I like to be involved in the bigger cases from a supporting role. But it took time to evolve and change my mindset. And by having that vision and the different plans to do it, you can kind of slowly evolve. But when I'm on stage and I'm speaking or on a podcast, just because I don't want to be that amazing trial lawyer anymore doesn't mean that other people have to view the same. So it really depends on what you want. You can say, hey, I want to scale, but I want to be that badass primary lawyer too. Well, okay, great. You can do that. You probably need to hire an outside CEO, and don't call yourself a CEO, and don't do CEO work, right? You might need to hire, right, a COO or a really good integrator to run, right, all these different other things. And maybe you won't be so much of the marketing talent because you're going to be still in production. So there's a lot of ways where you still can do it. For me, I really like the marketing. I like the visionary piece. I don't particularly love the management. So that's why Manny does a lot of that. So I'm really not in production. I'm really trying to get out of management as best I can and really focus on marketing and vision and, trying to build, we want to build an 8-figure and eventually multiple 8-figure law firm. So those are the type of things that I'm doing.
Was it 22 people you said?
Yeah, 22 to 25. It's roughly.
Yeah, sure. It's fluid. So you just said it earlier. I think that's really important for our listeners is the vision, because you got to have a roadmap. You have to know where you're trying to get to. I think of the book Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold, right? It's a really good book. I encourage everyone to buy it. Just about literally writing down, like pen to paper, the vision, the long view of the organization, because then you really can. It goes into your head. You can start to plan. It sounds like you did that. So at your level of scale now, what's your biggest challenge?
So now it's definitely bringing on internal leaders, bringing leaders up. Look, I've always hated the corporate structure, but as you grow, there definitely needs to be layers of management and mid-management and at least have some kind of corporate hierarchy. Of course, we have an accountability chart through EOS. And just, as we're growing together, having to balance, hey, this person's a great doer, but this person might be a terrible manager. Or this person's a great doer and a great manager, but this person can't see more than 10 feet in front of them. So when they say they want to grow, what does that mean? What do you do? Can you put that person on a leadership team? Because, is it especially with EOS, one of the limitations I think is as you grow, maybe there's a management team and an executive leadership team, right? Because they might be talking about management and people issues, but at its core, I don't think, sometimes I think we get too bogged down, at least my firm, in dealing with people issues at our leadership team instead of strategic issues, right? And, tactical growth issues, and tactical plans to grow. And it's more a lot of people based. And people are obviously, people are the ones that make the firm go.
Right.
And you got to invest in your people. But I think that can be done once you get to a certain size, that can be done more at a management team level and not an executive leadership. So we're working through some of those things, but developing it from within because, now we've had a few people that we've tried to promote and do it. And we've learned from the Peter principle is that people will be promoted to their level of incompetence. And I am very self-reflective about that for me. Because it's okay, so we want to be an 8-figure firm. Well, am I an 8-figure CEO? How? I've never been an 8-figure CEO before. So am I or am I not? Am I, and how do I have the mindset to get to change from a 7-figure, multiple 7-figure CEO to an 8-figure CEO, right? And a lot of that's obviously coaching, mentors, you have to be aware of it. And and one of the things I question myself is, well, how far can I take our firm as me being the visionary or the CEO? I don't know, right? And so if I'm, right, questioning that about myself, then I think it's, natural for me to say, okay, you want to grow, but what does that mean for you? And I would hate if we grew you into a position that you don't like or you're not going to be good at, because then, we're kind of in no man's land. Do you go back down or do you leave the firm? And, that obviously is a very tough conversation to have with some people, especially, but when you bring them on, when you grow them from within, they have the culture, they have the core values. So that's a much bigger benefit than bringing people from outside.
Right.
Sometimes you bring somebody in from outside and they might not adapt so quickly and have the respect of the team and truly understand the culture. And look, our culture is definitely an acquired taste. It's definitely you either within the first week, we know if you're either going to be great or you're going to be horrible, right? Or for the person, it's either going to be a great experience or it's going to be a terrible experience. And again, that's another lesson from Ben Glass of you want to attract and repel, and not just in marketing, but in everything.
Yeah.
So we've gotten, over the years, we've learned more about ourselves and we've grown and we've said, okay, we're okay with that. And the people that I get to interview is some people at the very last step. And my interview process is, hey, you've made it this far. Let me tell you all the ways working here is going to suck.
Right.
And let me tell you all the ways working here is going to be great. And listen, life's too short. So if you don't drive home, I like to do it in person, but I'm like, if you don't leave and talk to a loved one in your life and say, wow, I'm so excited. It's not 100, it's a 0, and don't take the job. If we offer it to you, please decline. And I've had a few people who have done that, and I'm disappointed, but in the moment I'm disappointed, but I'm like, okay, it worked. Right. And then the people who are like, who are aligned, they love it. We're very fast paced. They love it and they thrive. And it's the complete opposite of what all of the work memes that you see on Instagram and TikTok, about people hating their jobs. So,
but I feel like, repel and attract, your culture should be so unique that most people would be repelled because they wouldn't 100% buy into everything you're doing, right? There's only so many people out there in your community, in my community, who are like, hell yeah. They raise their hand on all those core values.
Right.
That's me. So that's a good thing that you have a very, cemented culture that's not wishy-washy. I encourage the audience, ask your team members to rate your culture on a scale 1 to 10. It could be anonymous. Hey, would you rate our culture? If you're getting 4s and 5s, well, let's figure out how to improve that, right? You got to ask that question.
And it could be that, internally the culture, what is the culture, right? It could be that it's a leadership problem, or it could be that it's a people problem. You have people that don't buy into your culture And then ultimately that's still a leadership problem because the leadership is the one who hired them and the one who, didn't encourage the buy-in, but then the leadership needs to go, okay, if it's not us, then we need some new people. And, we massively scaled during the Great Resignation. So 21 and 22 and 23 were, you know, a lot of times we had people in and out, and even,
Same.
talking with mentors and even talking, like talking to Charlie a lot about that at some of the masterminds and other friends. And they said, look, Adam, to a degree, a revolving door can be good so long as you're doing it until you get the right people for your culture. And it just so happens we're in a period of time where it's going to be very difficult. Right.
I'm so with you in the revolving door thing. I hear that from so many, fellow peers that there's a turnover problem, not because they have a bad culture, but they're figuring stuff out. And in my firm, the culture is really solidifying, and that retention is increased because we had a lot of hits and we had a lot of misses. You get a couple of hits because more people than not will not be A players, ride or dies. We're going to stick with you. But then once you get traction, I feel like, Adam, it compounds. The wheel spins faster with more momentum. So don't get discouraged. The audience, don't get discouraged if you're missing on these hires. You're going to miss, but you get a couple over time. It's going to give you traction. Like Adam and myself are seeing it. It's a hard slog though. It's hard as hell. And I know, Adam, that it's so frustrating.
Oh, one of my business coaches, I remember in the end of like late 2021 when I was, complaining and frustrated, he's like, Adam, how long you been hired for real? And I'm like, I don't know, year and a half. He's like, Adam, you're still a freshman on the varsity basketball team in high school. He's like, let's you think you've hired a lot of people? He's like, let's talk in 3 or 4 years when you graduate to become a senior and then you go on to college basketball.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah. And he's like, you're just figuring all this stuff out. He's like, don't be so hard on yourself. He's like, and of course, I mean, I'm hard on myself because I'm like, wow, I want to go.
Same.
And I want to get the right people. And I know how much money out and wasted time it is to hire, train, and go through that. But at the same time, I've learned that I'm not afraid to fail anymore. And I think that's been one of the keys, is really learning that, like I said, maybe 2016, 2017, I came across the acronym of fear of false events appearing real. And that's what I always tell myself. And this is not me being self-deprecating. I fail all the time, but the difference is we're not afraid to fail. We hired a sales attorney last year. Didn't work out. Okay. So is it a failure? Well, I mean, we can play with the semantics behind it. It was an amazing learning opportunity. The firm didn't burn down. Right? The firm's here, we're growing, we're still thriving, and we learned a ton from the experience. So I can call it a failure, but it was a learning experience. And so I don't care what we really call it, but what was the big deal? Whereas in 2010, I never would have made that move because I would have been obsessing over it. And what if it doesn't go right? And all these things. Big deal. It didn't go right. The firm didn't lose money. It wasn't the right fit. And we've done other things where the firm has lost money, but we've learned from it. And luckily, obviously, you got to save money. You got to make sure that there's reserves and different things. And, other people have heard me tell this story quite a bit, but one of the big catalysts for our growth were the decisions that we made during COVID. And a lot of those decisions were the complete opposite of the decisions that other people in my industry made. I mean, we worked our butts off, and a lot of it, and nobody got laid off. And a lot of it was because I had plenty of money saved, and I believed in my team at the time. And we said, all right, we're going to do the opposite of what everyone else is going to do. And we had the cash reserves to do it. So it was, it was fine. And so, it makes it a lot easier to make strategic choices and gambles when you have that solid foundation.
Absolutely. And like me, you leaned into risk during the pandemic when everyone else, running around like Chicken Little, just freaked out. Yeah. That's a perfect opportunity to lean into that space. So one thing you said that really it hit me. You said you missed on a hire, but the place didn't burn down, and that's a really nice perspective. I encourage the audience, when you swing and miss, you're not failing. So what? You didn't make contact. You have to. I hate to be cheesy. You got to keep swinging because you will connect, man. If you swing, if you get up there and you have the nerve to get it to the up to the plate, but it's about nerve, right? You and I, when we first started, we're kind of running fearful, and that's normal. but we got past the fear, right? And I'm doing stuff today I never would conceive, Adam, of doing
Oh
even a
yeah.
year ago. You're the same way, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah.
But
Oh
then
yeah. I never
next
thought
year
we'd
you'd
be
be
at
like,
this
that was
level.
nothing.
Yep, exactly. And I never thought we'd be at this level now with this many people in this revenue and criminal law. But again, now I have to retrain myself and start thinking about, all right, well, in 2 years, 3 years, when we
Yeah.
are at 8 figures, how do I be that 8-figure CEO and that visionary at that point and level myself up, but also level our team up. So that's just the biggest issue right now is completely, it's just, yeah, we got some marketing stuff and we got this stuff and, all these things. But really the big thing at this point is becoming, as Charlie even says, becoming the leader of leaders. That
Yeah, I love
stage of
that.
law firm growth, still resonates with me and my entire leadership team.
I think scaling a law firm is all about, I'm just writing notes when you were talking earlier, multiplying leaders. That to me is scaling a law firm, multiplying you, right? And, our mutual friend, Bill Biggs, I love how he says, every problem is a leadership problem. So when some fire goes up in front, something is burning, fire, you had a part of that in some indirect way. So own it, learn from it. Like you said, have proper perspective. One of my biggest challenges is identifying people's strengths. I'm not good at that. I'm not even really a great hirer. I really know the people to help me with hiring, but I'm really not great at seeing what is Sally's superpower. Like, what is she really good at? Because you talk about Peter's principle. I've done it many times. I promote people, Adam, to their level of incompetence, and it didn't work out. So if you can identify what Sally is really freaking good at, that's how you're going to kick some serious butt.
Well, and I have something for you on that. So we use the culture index now, and we use it for hiring, but we also use it for training. And if you want me, I can put you in touch with my guy who does it. He is amazing. Just a cool guy. His name's Samit. Cool guy, but cool guy in every way. And the program is really amazing. So culture index. So from what I've been told, I have not done my independent research, but DISC is about 51-ish, 55% accurate. Predictive index is about 77% accurate. And culture index takes a lot of predictive indexes, foundations, and principles and adds 3 other metrics to it that make it about 91% validated. So it passes the EEOC validation testing, where you can use it to discriminate. As far as from a hiring perspective, you cannot use DISC to not hire somebody, okay, which is very important to know for people that are using DISC as, in the pre-hiring process. But we also use it for, management and encouragement and, motivation, right? And it's really been eye-opening to us. We had to go through the full training with Samit and all these different things, and we still use him as, he's our coach with it. And we invest so much money in coaching. But this year, I think one of our big successes of this year is we completely revamped our hiring process from start to finish. And what we used to do is we used to use culture index at the end of the hiring, and it was cool. But then we'd be like, oh man, we really like this person, but the culture index says X, Y, and Z, that they might be better in a different position than the one we're looking at them for, right? And again, none of these can measure for skill. And now we do culture index at the very beginning, and we have these archetypes for positions that we're looking for. And again, look, if it's 90% validated, that still means 10 people, one of them is going to be wrong. Mine was spot on. And I did it with my buddy Tom Tona on his podcast, and I interpreted his, and I interpreted Tom's. He's very similar to me, a little different, but similar to me. And I interpreted his culture index. I had him do it on my account, take the test, and and he said, and it was spot on for him too. And when you know about what motivates certain people, you can say, all right, we're very big into the team. We're all sports people. So it's team. But if there is somebody that has a little bit more me motivations, a little more selfish motivation, that's okay. Being selfish is okay, right? It's being selfish to the detriment of others is bad, but being selfish by itself is not a bad thing. And realizing, hey, this attorney really wants to be the face and the star. Great. Because I want to be the face and the star talking to you, talking in this world. Right. I don't need to be on the 6 o'clock news as a, legal analyst, but some of my lawyers, that's their dream, to be on Fox News and to be that nationwide legal expert. So let's promote them. Let's do that, because that's going to make them stay here and be happy. Right. Other people want to be motivated by getting home in time to see their kids, baseball game. Great. Let's build that so we can do that. Some people say, Adam, I don't really want to do client signups. I just want to grind in court. Okay. How can we make that, work? And right. And so we get a lot of that from Culture Index too. And, because you talk to people don't always even know what they want themselves. Right. So this definitely helps and helps people be more self-aware about themselves and helps us be more aware of how people like to be interacted with, trained, coached, led from a managerial perspective. So I could not endorse Culture Index, any more than, it's been a game changer for us.
I never
It
heard
really
of that
has.
before. I'm going to definitely check it out.
Yeah, and talk to me offline. I can send you, Samit's info. He's fantastic.
That's amazing. I'm telling you guys, I always learn something on this show. It's fantastic. Just wrapping up, I just want to ask you, what book, looking back, has had the most profound impact on your business and or your life?
That's a good one. Obviously EOS or Traction, because that's what got me started with EOS. But really, the first two business books that I read around 2015, 2016 was, the first one was The Slight Edge. And it was, it's very similar to the compound effect of just, the whole principle, right? Just, things compound and, get better a little bit every day. That was really good, especially at that time. And of course the E-Myth. It's just a foundational book that I think everybody should read early on and reread. And I've reread. I don't reread it every year, maybe every 3 years or so. I've reread it, and just those two, they're classics, they're oldies but goodies. It really, for me, made a huge difference in my life. And it has. Now, I can tell you this year what I've done. I listened to Elon Musk's book on the biography, the Walter Isaacson biography, on audiobook, which is about 20 hours. And then I went back and listened to the Steve Jobs one, which I never read either, from about 15 years ago that Walter Isaacson did. So all in about 45 hours from those two books this year already. And both of them, especially from where I'm at now, to see that, how they're alike, similar and different as far as leaders and visionaries and just everything, and inventors and innovators, is just so inspiring to me, and saying, wow, this part of Elon Musk is brilliant, right? But these other parts maybe not for me, right?
Right.
And same with Steve Jobs. It was entertaining, a lot more entertaining than a regular business book, because they're talking, you're going through the history and the journey of Apple, Pixar, SpaceX, Tesla, all these really cool, companies that have been built. So those two have just been really great for me this year. Then I come back to the team and I'm like, all right, guys, we got to do it like Elon did in this time. We're in a surge, or, and just learning and trying to bring back some lessons to my leadership team.
Well, as we know, success leaves clues. So let's learn from others, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can learn so much from so many others. So couple last questions for you. What keeps you up at night?
I think I sleep pretty well, but so the things that concern me it's just more about how can, I have a true sense of, if you're in it with us for the long term, then I'm the guy you want to be in a foxhole with, because I'll do anything for my true team. And so for us, it's just, for me, especially now, it's all right. How do we continue to grow so that way the people that are truly in it here at Rossen Law Firm for the long term, we can all grow together? How can, I'm looking at, some of my lawyers and some of my staff that have children, and like, how can we make it so that college is paid for? How can we make it so that so-and-so doesn't have to worry about this for their kids? Or, we all can continue to really grow. And, of course, obviously, as revenue goes up, there's certain inflection points where profit goes up, and certain inflection points when profit goes down, until you can bring it back up. So, it's a lot different than even when it was me, Manny, and two legal assistants, right? And I'm still running a 50%, profit margin at that time. We're nowhere near that, obviously, as you scale to the level that we're at.
Yep.
But it's those kind of things, because everybody does want to grow. And figuring out what that definition is, because I feel very passionately that there's 22 to 25 people that, are looking at me, not to do everything for them, but to be their leader, and they're putting trust in me with their futures. And that's a responsibility that I will never let go of and never underestimate. That's a major responsibility. And that's the responsibility at a smaller scale. When we had 6 before COVID, we had just grown from 3.5 to 6 at COVID. And for a small criminal firm, that was major. But I said to him, I have this major responsibility to these 5 other people that believe in me. I can't let them down. So that's what keeps me up is that. The legal work, no, because I have full trust in my team. Always marketing and just how are we going to grow, and the different ideas and plans that we have. But really, it's done because I want our core to be here 20, 25, 30 years, and all of us to just grow up together.
It's awesome, man. I love it. Last question. What's your greatest success in life so far?
Oh, easy. My 2 boys, not even close. So
Same.
I have and it's funny because as much as I love my wife, I think like 2 or 3, I have a 5-year-old and almost 2-year-old, and and look, we talk all the time. My wife's a prosecutor. Me and my wife, we are so tight and so close. But I said to her maybe 3 years ago after our first son, it was maybe 2, and I said, I can't promise that I would take a bullet for you. I'm like, I think I would, but I can't. I don't know what I would do in the moment. But I said, for my son, at the time we didn't have Luke, it was only Chase. I said, there's no doubt that I would take a bullet for Chase. And she looked at me, she goes, I feel the exact same way, and we're so close, right? My wife and I, and we're just like, yeah, like that's the difference of being a parent. And it's just, it's still the best thing, the most successful thing I've ever done. We have a great family, and a lot of the things that I'm doing now with my time is trying to build that vision in that firm where I can still work really hard and work a lot because I love what I do. I don't consider this work, but be an amazing father that's there and present, and have the flexibility to do whatever I want so I can, for them. And I'm very close with my boys. They're amazing.
I love it. Same. That's the why right there, right? That's why we do what we do for them, for sure. Adam, this is a really fun conversation. I love the energy. I love the drive and ambition. So thank you very much. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, Adam Rossen, Rossen, Rossen Law Firm. We like to be everywhere. I think we're everywhere. So, you can email me, adam@rossenlawfirm.com. You can hit us up on social media anywhere. You can call the office. We tend to be everywhere. I love talking to people, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I've had so many people that I've reached out to scared and nervous over the years and said, hey, can you talk to me for an hour and help me? And everybody says yes to me. I say yes to everybody. Is this work talking to you today? This is fun.
Love it. It's fun.
Right? I could do this all day instead of sitting in court, having a judge tell me, no, you have to go to trial next week and not 2 weeks because that's when I want it done. Sorry, judge, no. Right. That's why they don't send me to court anymore, because I'm going to get thrown in jail these days. Right. So for me, please reach out. And I learned so much from talking to everybody. Even if you're just starting your firm, I learn every day.
I love it, Adam. Keep growing. Keep doing what you're doing. I love it. I love everything you're doing. Just keep crushing it. It's inspiring for sure. Thank you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Anytime.
All right, that's it for this episode of The Earley Show. Be sure to check out more episodes of our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Answering Legal YouTube channel.